My friend, today I sent 200 messages to white bitches in yoga pants.
Yeah? What did you tell those bitches?
It said, buy my shit or you get brown penis. Or don't buy my shit and you still get brown penis.
Oh, I love it. Just ram it in there dry. No lube, no foreplay, no warm up.
That is my game, bro. Hit it and quit it. Ejaculate and evacuate. Pump and dump like a chump.
Yeah, man, just keep going. Hermosi didn't get muscles by respecting response rates.
What's up, all you sexy internet degenerate motherfuckers out there? This video is called Before You Spray and Pray. Now, this is about cold outreach. I've been coaching agency owners now for like 8 years, and not a day goes by where people tell me they're sending lots and lots of messages and they're getting ignored and they don't know what they're doing wrong. And they were kind of sold this idea that all you got to do to start up an internet business is you just start messaging dentists or you just start messaging plumbers and they'll jump on calls with you and they'll pay you 10K. And generally speaking, that is not most people's experiences. And part of the reason is they're sort of fundamentally lacking the right overall strategy to even do cold outreach in the first place. So I applaud you guys for your effort, but I want you guys to do some of the prerequisite homework in this video so that when you actually send messages, they actually fucking land and you get real conversations and you actually talk to people who are interested in buying your stuff. And in doing so, you're gonna make your life a whole lot easier. So for those of you guys who don't know me already, my name is Frankie Finn. I wrote these 2 best-selling books. This baby you can find a link for below this video. And I built 3 of my own agencies up to 100 plus clients. Been doing this 20 years. Helped thousands of you guys out there. Let's get into the good shit.
Yo, it's Frankie Finn. Beach mode engaged. Looms loaded, AI's humming. Let's go.
So as I kind of mentioned in the intro, every day I get messages from people who say, I sent 50 messages to dentists and nobody responded. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. What am I saying that's not working? And a lot of it is people are making very, very fundamental mistakes. And they think, you're just supposed to go out there and you start banging on doors and inevitably people are gonna buy. And I'll tell you the single biggest mistake that people miss is they skip the first step, which is actually just market research, right? So if you're gonna sell dentists or you're gonna sell plumbers, or you're gonna talk to e-commerce stores, or you're gonna go sell a GHL SaaS, you better be damn sure that you know what problems those people actually have and what they're trying to solve. And for those of you guys, by the way, who've been on our weekly Q&As on Monday, I've been posting over and over and over our market research bot, which does all of this work for you in like 10 seconds. It's totally free, by the way. I'll ask my video editor, Mark, if you can put a link below so you guys can have access to this. But I wouldn't dare sell a plumber if I didn't know what problems plumbers are trying to solve. I'll give you a small example of how powerful this is. So what most people are doing are basically saying, hey, we got a service, can we jump on a call and I'll sell you, which kind of sounds like this.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy. So here's my number, now buy my shit.
So here's my number, now buy my shit. All right, so Mike in our mastermind, he was doing some work with plumbers, and one day a plumber said to him, he said, Mike, is there any way you could get me like new construction jobs? I don't really like emergency phone calls. And he said, well, why don't you like emergency calls? And he said, I run out there, I have to get there quickly or they'll give the job to someone else. And when I get there, I literally get covered in shit. Like every time somebody calls me for an emergency, the emergency usually involves shit. But he said, this new construction stuff, I could do it in a suit and tie, right? So Mike learned from his market research that new construction was way more appealing than emergency calls. So we'll put a big X here, emergency calls. So if he just does what most people do and shows up and says, hey, I can get you more of something, that means more getting covered in shit, right? More fat guy, smelly turds, right? But when he says I can get you new construction, like they actually make more money from those. They're often repeat jobs because they're home builders who aren't just building one home, they're building 50 of them. And they could do it in a suit and tie. Like, which one of those do you think they'd rather have? So one of the things that Mike did is he realized he had to calibrate after his market research to make his Google Ads service, which is what he was doing, Google LSA ads. He had to make it, aim it at new construction jobs. And just that little detail alone made his stuff work. And by the way, most people, because they skipped the market research, are just promising the generic more, which kind of sounds like this.
Yeehaw, motherfuckers, come on down to Frankie Finn's More Emporium where we got more leads, we got more sales, we got more customers. You need more of something? We got you. Leads, sales, customers, clients, patients, we got it all. Just get more of it.
Yeehaw, motherfucker! All right, so we don't want to just be in the situation where we're just promising people generic more, because I promise you, there's lots of reasons why generic more for almost every market universally across the world is universally resistible. Now, let's talk about the next piece. So I'm going to tell you guys like just kind of a simple metaphor, but imagine, for example, we decide we're going to sell together, you and I are going to sell barbecue pork ribs. And then I get the idea that I'm going to send you to the Jewish Vegetarian Conference. How many sales do you think you're going to make? What if you like really tweak your offer and do all the right things, right? I don't care what you do, you're not going to make any sales because they're not buyers of ribs and they never will be, right? They're vegetarians and they're Jewish, so they especially don't eat pork. You're going to make 0 sales at the Jewish Vegetarian Conference. Same exact product. If I send you to like an Alabama football game, your ass is going to clean up. There's going to be a line a quarter stadium long and people are going to smell your ribs and they're going to come and buy them without much effort. So most people just assume if I sell to dentists or I sell to plumbers or I sell to HVAC contractors or I do med spas or whatever it is you do, that everybody in the industry is a buyer. And in fact, by the way, 80% of every industry is non-buyers. Right? So Dan Kennedy says, if you think about your marketing service like selling shoes, he says, you will logically want to sell your stuff to people who are barefoot because they need what you got. But in reality, what you want to do is sell to someone who has a closet full of 200 pairs of shoes. So if you've got a marketing service, your first instinct is going to go to sell to somebody who needs marketing instead of selling to the client who has a proven history of buying 20 marketing services. So like say, for example, you want to sell a website, your first instinct will be to sell to somebody who doesn't have a website, right? And by the way, the internet's been around 30 years. If they haven't made a website in 30 years, like they're probably just not a buyer, right? I have some clients who own 200 domains. And there's always an argument you can make for them to get one more domain. Like, hey, you don't have a Spanish version of that, your website. By the way, my little stutter is kind of like this.
Today, Junior?
So I'll tell you right now, you can eliminate 80% of your headaches by just focusing on the 20%. And I'll give you guys a cheat code. There's actually a lot of different ways to identify the buyers. But I'll tell you one of the simplest things that buyers have that non-buyers don't is they have pixels on their website. Why do they have pixels? Because they're spending money on ads. How do we know they buy marketing services? Because they got a fucking pixel on their website, right? Like they wouldn't be paying money otherwise if they weren't doing all those things, right? So the next piece of the puzzle that we really want to nail is the old offer. Like, what are we actually promising to these people? And most people, by the way, think their offer equals a service plus a price tag. We do Facebook ads for $2K a month. We do missed call text back for $297. We do Google ads for $1,500 a month. We do SEO for $5K a month. That is a service and a price tag. But what we want to do is think about what are we actually promising? And a promising is more akin to an outcome with a price tag. So for example, in Mike's case, since he did the market research, the outcome he promises is I can get you new construction peeps for $300 a piece. Now, he happens to be doing Google ads. It is a Google ads service, but he doesn't even talk about Google ads in his actual promise. So if he's messaging in cold outreach, you know the number of plumbers that woke up today interested in Google ads? 0. But you know how many of those are sick of emergency calls where they're getting covered in shit? Most of them, right? So you have to talk about the right thing that matters to them, which by the way, is never you, and is never your service and always is them and who they want to get in front of, right? So if you make your promise focused on them and who they want to get in front of and not about you and what you do, I promise that detail alone will make you better at getting them to respond. So another big mistake, by the way, messages. So a lot of people write messages and they're talking about the wrong who, and the length of them is really, really off. So as previously mentioned, the wrong who is you, and the wrong thing to talk about is your service. And so you'll see this in language. People will send me an outreach message, and it'll say, every message or every sentence starts with I or we or our company name, and it's like I am, my company is, I've been doing this, we offer this, blah, 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 and it's I, me, our company, me, we, us, business name, business name. And you know who cares about you? Sorry guys, but it's exactly zero. So the right person to talk about is them. And so if you want to nail a message, practice starting sentences with you. And by the way, the length of a proper outreach message in my experience is 3 to 4 sentences. That's it. Right? So a lot of times people write a novel and are trying to make the sale in a single message. And what you really want to do is focus just on getting people to respond and start talking to you. The goal of message number 1 is not to make the sale. The goal of message number 1 is to get the business owner to open up a conversation with you about buying your service. The sale will come later, by the way. So what most people are doing, by the way, is they're talking about themselves. And by the way, I get pitched a lot on this YouTube channel. Motherfuckers write me novels, pages, like as if I have nothing to do but read their cold pitches. And the ones that actually work, by the way, are the ones that are short and to the point. And I'll give you guys like a little bonus tip on this. If you can demonstrate instead of say with words, so demonstrations are pictures, not words. So think about your message as a visual. So I'll tell you, when I get pitched, the only ones I really respond to are the people who actually like take a picture of my actual YouTube channel and say, I was looking at this. And it's the picture that drives the response, not some like magic phrase or magic word. So you want to keep it focused on them. In fact, typically when we do outreach, which is not that often these days, but we've done it a lot historically, and the same principles have worked for 100 years and won't change, by the way. What we focus on is really just talking about them. You know, saw you guys have been in business 20 years, you know, doing emergency phone calls and plumbers, had an idea to bring you new construction jobs with Google for under $300 a piece. Mind if I share a little info? That's a whole message, by the way. And by the way, you'll notice it doesn't say anything about my company name. Doesn't say that we do Google ads. Doesn't tell you that we should jump on a call. It focuses on you guys do 20 years. I saw you guys sell emergency calls. Would you be interested in this? Had an idea to help you get this outcome. Can I share? And usually I'd have some details about can I share it in a short little video, right? And I would be specific, a 2-minute video, a 5-minute video, however long that actually is. Which leads me to my next point, okay? If you can make your outreach message a give versus a take, your response rates will go up simply from that. So what I mean by that is a lot of people are trying to take, and the biggest thing they're trying to take is time. So I get messages from people going, let's jump on a quick call. By the way, there's no such thing as a quick sales call. Ain't nobody just gonna give me a little 5-minute pitch and let me go easily. So I actually look at it now, like if I jumped on sales calls with everybody who requested them, I would have my entire week taken up by pitches and I still wouldn't get to all of them. That's how many of them there are, right? So I get all these people going, can I take your time? Can I take your time? Can I take your time? And what you wanna focus on is give. And I'll tell you the easiest thing to give is an idea. And again, if you can, bonus tip, if you can visually demonstrate this and turn this into a picture instead of words, it will work even better. So instead of saying, like, for example, we've had guys in our mastermind that are selling websites, right? Instead of selling the websites the typical boring way, like, hey, we offer, so most people when they would write a message, they go, hey, our company does web design, we do graphic design, blah, 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 WordPress, blah, 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 blah. We've been doing this, do you want to jump on a call? And instead, what we're doing is talking about them, saying, hey, saw you guys are doing emergency calls, had an idea for you to sell new construction. made you a little website demo, and then they see a picture. By the way, with AI, you can make a visual demonstration of what their example website might look like with them on it, selling, in this case, new construction calls, and they can see it visually, and you send that in a message. That message is a give, not a take, right? Right? That is a, hey, would you be interested in this? By the way, shout out to Kai. Kai, for those of you guys who like check out the link to this, I'd encourage you just to look at the sales page. Kai designed this for me. He sold me on a cold outreach message. You know what he didn't do? Tell me about how amazing of a designer is. He made a demonstration of the page and said, your page could look like this. And I said, I want my page to look like that. I said, how much? He gave me a price. We did a deal. He went from cold to sold in about 5 minutes, by the way, 5 minutes, because he demonstrated, he gave. He didn't show up to the party going, give me your time, motherfucker, right? So I'm very passionate. I know I'm kind of ranting, which is a little bit like this.
Sons of Internet, I am Frankie Finn.
Frankie Finn is 7 feet tall.
Yes, of heart. Signs up clients by the hundreds. And if he were here, he'd consume the trolls with fireballs from his eyes and bolts of lightning from his ass. I am Frankie Finn. And I see a whole army of my internet here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to watch us free men. And free men you are. What will you do without freedom?
Only the greatest movie ever made. And if you disagree, it's because you're a terrible person. And the last piece I want to talk to you guys about is the strategy. And I'll tell you where the strategy comes into play is most people are tactical. Tactical is when you're thinking about doing outreach as a one-step thing. Spray and pray. So tactical to me is like a guy at 1:30, 1:40 in the morning, the bar is closing, he's trying to get laid. Like there ain't a lot of strategy. He's going up to the girl like, hey, do you want to go home with me? You know, what's up, baby? You want to come back with me? That's his strategy, right? It's a single touch point. If it works, great, but more often than not, it requires a lot of spray and pray, and he's probably not going to get like the greatest action of his life, right? Strategy is when you're thinking about multi-touches that work together. So like, for example, if you think about like a normal dating process, right? You might like talk to the girl, you might ask for her number, you might text her and say, I want to take you out sometime. You might go on some dates. After going to some dates, you go steady, you guys, you know, get hot and heavy, you might meet her family, and after like months and years of that, you might get married, right? There's a multi-touch process that leads to the quote unquote conversion. Well, by the way, most people just send one message and they don't even send it to buyers, by the way, and they don't know what those buyers want, even if they happen to get in front of them, and their offer is all talking about themselves and their service, and their message is me, 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 and they're asking to take the person's time. Like that's resistible on top of a resistible on top of a resistible, and then they only message the person once and move on. And if they message twice, by the way, because I get them, I'm on the receiving end a lot of this, the second message is, did you see my last message? Did you see what I sent you? Bumping this to your inbox. Did you see it? Did you see it? So I want you to think about this as strategy. And so strategy involves two things. One, follow up, right? So what do we do when they don't immediately jump out of their chair and buy, right? We have to have a strategic way to follow up. And also, if you're going to be really strategic, it's multimedia. I actually said this to somebody in our mastermind the other day. If you think of every person that is a spammer, that represents a spammer to you, meaning they just send you shit you didn't ask for, 100 times out of 100, they have one way of reaching you. Usually an email or like a social DM, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, something like that. But they usually message you one time on one media and then they move on, just like the guy at the bar. Do you want to go home with me? No. All right, next, right? The people you have real relationships with, I promise you, they have more than one way to reach you. Like I think about my best friend for the last 30 years, a brother named Wayne, the Wayne Train. Shout out to the Wayne Train if you're watching, probably not. He's got his own business to run, but anyways, the Wayne Train has like 50 ways of reaching me. I have his physical mailing address. I've sent him like gifts in the mail. I got his phone number. I call him. I got his WhatsApp. I got his Facebook. I got his Instagram, even though I know he doesn't use his Instagram. I got his LinkedIn. I got his Telegram, right? I got his family's address. I know where he lives. I can go knock on his door. Like, that's the epitome of multimedia, right? So if you want to make this work, you build off of this. So that means, like, for example, if Kai sends me a demonstration of an example landing page, and by the way, again, he can make this with AI in 30 seconds and use the same prompts every time. If that doesn't work, he can then go, hey, I was thinking about your upsell page, right? What do you think about this as your upsell page? And he can make those messages build, right? So I want you guys to think about, how can you make your messages build? So if Mike, for example, he sends him a mock website that demonstrates, hey, I can get you new construction, and he's doing Google Ads. Well, now he might, as the next piece, say, hey, these are some of the keywords that might get you. And again, if he can demonstrate their exact keywords, here's a real keyword of somebody who's looking for new construction in your city, and they ain't finding you. By the way, they're finding this other plumber, but I can help you fix that. And then if that doesn't work, maybe he could do a landing page, right? He could create another mock-up and say, hey, I was thinking about how to get you those new construction jobs. So if you think about this as a collective, what most people are doing is they don't really know what people want. They don't really know what they want. And then they're mostly talking to non-buyers anyway, that it doesn't matter what you say, because you're selling ribs at the Jewish Vegetarian Conference or selling shoes to people who prefer to be barefoot. They're not really offering anything, right? They just have a deliverable and a price tag. Then they write these long-winded messages that are about themselves, and then they ask to take your time. And if you don't immediately buy it, they move on to the next thing. And that means you must spray and pray. You must keep at it and keep at it and keep at it. So I want you guys to think about less but better outreach. And less but better is, let's first figure out what the fuck these people actually want. And then let's make a detailed list of the people who buy it. By the way, pro tip, ChatGPT can actually do this for you. You click on the deep research, you can say, find me all the plumbers in Austin who have Facebook or Google pixels or whatever, Meta, I guess, pixels on their website, and give me a list of them in a table, and it'll tell you who all the buyers are. And then we're going to offer something that's an actual promise that represents something meaningful to them. We're going to keep it short and sweet. It's going to be about them. It's going to be a give. It's going to visually demonstrate something they want. And then if they don't do it, we're going to strategically build off of it, and ideally multimedia. Hey, if email's not your thing, no problem. I'll get you on LinkedIn. So if you do those things collectively, I promise you, your messages will work way, way better than what everybody else is doing. So I hope you guys are getting some extreme value out of this. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to subscribe just for the golden dad guns, the corny jokes, His Holiness with the dad guns right here, and may the Triforce be with you. Buy my book, or I will replace your favorite shampoo with nothing but pure maple syrup, because I'm Canadian as fuck.